I'm about to try and break the Guinness World Record for paper airplane distance, and that is a monumental task, make no mistake about it. So, in order to track my progress toward that goal, I'm launching a video series called Road to World Record, and here's how the series is going to work. We're starting with this plane here, which is already an exceptional paper airplane, one of the best I've ever published. It locks in a three-dimensional shape, it's pretty easy to fold, and it flies almost 150 feet. So we're starting from a really good point. But through this series of videos, I'm going to be making improvements to this plane as well as to other planes. And you get to see that design process. You get to see iteration after iteration and gain some insight into my design process. And I'm even going to talk about some of the science that is informing me as I try to make strategic decisions and improve this plane to the point where hopefully it flies over 226 feet. Now, it might not be this plane that gets there. I might never get there, but we will get to experience that design process together. Now, if you're watching this video on YouTube, there is actually already a second video in this series. And I mentioned this is one of the best planes that I have ever published. The second version of this plane actually flies farther than any plane I have ever published before. And that is available to my patrons of the Templates and More tier. And here's the reason I'm structuring it this way. Basically, there's a lot of personal risk in publishing my very best designs. Someone could compete against me using my own design and beat me. Or someone could take ideas from the planes that I publish and use them to make an even better plane and potentially even break the world record. And that's kind of why I feel like I need to put the very best version behind a paywall. But here's the thing. Once I publish a new design that's even better than the one that's currently on Patreon, that new plane goes to Patreon, and the one that's currently on Patreon will filter down to YouTube. So if you just want to watch for free, you're going to experience the vast majority of this series without having to become a patron. But there's always just going to be that one video, the very best design, that is on Patreon and only available to my patrons. If you're thinking about becoming a patron, there's literally never been a better time because we are about to get into some seriously impressive paper airplanes that fly farther, a lot farther, than anything I have ever published before. And you get access to that in addition to all of the templates that I'm regularly promoting on this channel. So let me know what you think of this idea. Is this appealing to you at all? Do you have problems with the way I'm structuring it? Basically, this video series is going to last as long as the interest on YouTube does. So if it's well received, I'll keep making videos. Maybe there'll be 10 or 15 or 50. But if it's not well received, then I'll just continue publishing a bunch of unique designs. And it's also important to note, this series isn't the only thing I'm going to be doing on the channel. I'm still planning on publishing regular paper airplanes that aren't designed specifically to break the world record. And in fact, I have a couple that I'll be publishing very soon. So with all that said, let's see the plane in flight, and then I'll teach you how to fold it. In order to fold this paper airplane, you're going to want both an A4 sheet of paper and a ruler. And we're going to begin by folding the right edge to the left edge. And we'll go ahead and open that up. And now I'm going to fold the top 2 centimeters of the paper down, and I've already marked that with a line here. You may need to do some measurement. And this is actually a pretty important measurement, so don't just estimate this. Take the time, grab a ruler, and actually make this fold 2 centimeters. Okay, and having done that, I'm going to flip the paper over, fold this edge here into the center. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. And now with the paper like this, we're going to fold down right along this bottom edge, just folding that whole top triangle like this. And your paper should look like this. And I'm now going to fold this edge into the center. I'll do the same thing on the other side. And then we'll open this up on either side. And now I'm going to kind of swing this open on that center crease, and I want to reverse this diagonal crease here as I kind of flatten the paper just like this. I'll flip this triangular flap to the other side. And now I'm going to do the same thing here, swinging this like that and reversing this diagonal crease. And swing my flap back that way. So your paper should look like this. Now I'm going to push that to the left, and I want to fold this edge here to the center crease, leaving a bit of a gap, maybe a millimeter or a little more than that. Just like this. And then I'll swing that flap back to the right side. Do the same thing here, flip that way, fold this edge to the center, leaving a millimeter gap. And then fold it back in the opposite direction. And your plane should currently look like this. Now I'm going to fold this edge here right over this edge, so it should land basically on the center. But try to keep this edge, you'll see it doesn't quite hit the center up here. Just try to keep that parallel to the center crease without ever actually hitting it. And do the same thing on the other side, keeping an equal gap between the edge and the center crease as you have on the other side. And your plane should look like this. Now I'm going to open up each side here, and I want to fold this short little section here to land along that diagonal crease, and I'm going to leave just a tiny little gap as I do that. Again, that can be a millimeter, this maybe even a little less here. And I'll do the same thing on this side. Sorry, I'm rotating the paper and I don't need to. Folding this edge here to that crease. And now I'm going to fold this edge here to the same crease, again leaving a little gap, and make sure your crease is going right to that corner down there. Try to control this layer as you do this. Do the same thing over on this side. Okay, and one more time we're going to fold this edge here into that diagonal crease. Just like so. And we'll do the same thing over here. Again, just leaving a little gap. And now you can see we're going to be able to fold these in like this, but they're going to go over these layers and into a lock, which you may not have noticed yet, but you can see if I close both of these layers at the same time, I can, let me kind of start it. If I close these layers at the same time with this pocket a little bit open, you can see what it does there. That swings all the way back, and actually these layers will fit perfectly into that pocket. You can see this edge intersects just inside the back corner of this pocket. So I can hypothetically swing this layer into that pocket. Now the trick is, as you close this up, that pocket opens farther and farther backward, all the way down to this edge. So it's easiest to fit this flap into it once it's all the way closed, except for the fact that now it's all the way closed. So it's a little bit difficult to fit it all the way into it. And if you do one side at a time, also you kind of twist your plane a little bit and you get this weird bubbling on the second side. So you actually kind of have to do both sides simultaneously while holding it a little bit like that and closing it up, trying not to get your layers caught, just like that, and that pocket is pivoting backwards the whole time you're closing it, and you want these layers to not roll too much, but kind of sit in their correct positions. I don't know if that makes any sense, but basically you want everything to lie as flat as it possibly can, but it's still not going to lie perfectly flat until you finally fold your wings. So with the paper in this position here, I'm going to fold from the nose up through the back corner of the pocket. That's actually my reference, but this edge should basically land on that bottom edge as you do that. So I'm looking for this corner of the pocket as I'm folding here. And that is my lock, so I'm folding right through it, controlling all my layers as I do so. And once I do one side, I'm just flipping it over, folding the second side to match. And there you go. Your plane is basically finished, but you're going to want to go ahead and hold it in this position here. Flatten out your wings on either side. And you can look and see, hopefully your wings are really straight at this point, and if not, you can kind of bend them to adjust them appropriately. And then finally, you're going to need a bit of up elevator with this plane. It just is a little nose heavy, so you can bend the back edges of the wings up like so, and that should help it fly better. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a patron, be sure to check out the other video on Patreon that shows the next version of this plane in its progression. And if you're not a patron, consider becoming one so you can be completely up to date on the road to the world record.